Hey guys. Hey. Hey. How are you? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Y. Today we're going to be playing the second part of Maginary. I'm super excited to play the second chapter, so let's get started. Chapter 2. Evacuation is underway. Finally, the book pointed to the southeast. Michael stormed through the brushwood and suddenly stopped in his tracks, blinded by the sunlight. "What the hell?" stammered Michael. It was just nighttime. In front of his eyes and Y's imagination was a sun-drenched footpath running. Okay, he mentioned that it was just nighttime, and in the first chapter, the pages were dark, and in this chapter, the page is light. So is that supposed to represent night and day? That's pretty interesting. In front of his eyes and Y's imagination was a sun-drenched footpath running straight through the forest. Michael hesitated for a moment, but remembering the hair-raising glare of the stranger who was left behind on the green, he quickly picked himself up and stepped onto the footpath. In broad daylight, the sense of alarm seemed to disappear, while the tall pines that bordered the footpath gave off a calming aroma. Michael felt a tinge of excitement and decided that sooner or later, the footpath would lead him to people and help. The only problem was walking barefoot, because the ground often got rocky as the footpath went up and down. Michael guessed that he was somewhere in the mountains. A while later, the pines gave way to stout oak trees. Looking at them, Michael once again began to worry, because their thick trunks were pierced with road signs. It looked as though the trees consumed the signs as they grew. Michael stopped to examine one of the signs and read, "Onzo, Sector 6. Onzo, that word looked familiar, he thought, realizing a moment later that he had seen it flashing above the map on the medallion. He also remembered that he had come across that name in the book about Jeremy. He tried to recall anything he could about this place, but all was in vain. He had read less than a quarter of the book before deciding somebody was having a joke and abandoning the reading. Still, there were a couple of things that he remembered clearly. First, this wasn't the Earth. Well, that seems to be pretty obvious. Second, it was full of strangeness, and that was clear to him, as he still couldn't shake off the weird sensation of the abrupt transition from night to day. At this moment, he was distracted from his thoughts by some unusual-looking tree leaves. Their fibers were golden and ran through its green surface in a broken line. You might think it was a computer microchip rather than a leaf. Michael stroked his surface in wonder, but the leaf felt like the real thing. Suddenly, Michael and Y heard a female voice. It was barely audible and trailed off every so often. Full of hope, Michael rushed in its direction. The sound gradually became clearer. Okay, is this supposed to be the sound getting clearer? Okay, all the letters are almost there. There we go. Attention, attention. Due to an increased anomaly level in Sector 6, all the research and military groups present at Onzo should leave immediately. Rescue robots have been dispatched to assist with the evacuation. When Michael turned around the corner, he saw a small meadow and the source of the voice. A rusty military pickup, overgrown with vegetation, stood in the center of the meadow. A loudspeaker stuck at the top, broadcasting the sounds that Michael had heard in the forest. The pickup was surrounded by wooden boxes with parachutes still attached. They had clearly been dropped from the air, and they looked much newer than the car. The boxes were broken and surrounded by pamphlets that had spilled out from them. Michael picked up one of the brochures. It said, "Relevant information for all detachments lost in the anomaly zone, Onzo." So that's what Onzo stands for, anomaly zone. The pamphlet had two spreads. The first of them showed the map of Onzo, which matched the one he had seen on the medallion, although this one was done in greater detail. Onzo looked like a circle divided into 6 concentric rings. The outer ring was marked Sector 6. The dot in the very center was marked Epicenter. It was the dot that had flashed on the medallion, the one that Michael had to reach. The map on the other labels as well, such as object number C5, cyclical meadow, or object number D8, recursive C. The other spread showed some photographs and contained short descriptions of Anzo's known dangers. As Michael examined the very first photograph with the strange creature that looked like a furry meatball suspended in the air, he heard a loud noise behind his back. He turned around and saw some rusty thing riding out of the forest. Is this like a robot or something? It moved on its tracks and had a humanoid body frame, equipped with arms that ended in claws and something resembling a head. The head fixture said, "Sir, evacuation is underway. Please follow my instructions." The robot moved towards Michael, who let out a sigh of relief, thinking that this was his chance to reach civilization and get back home instead of dancing to the medallion's tune. "I'm so happy to see you. Can you take me to humans?" Michael's voice was full of hope. "Sir, evacuation is underway. Please follow my instructions." The robot repeated in a clanking voice, and something resembling a syringe popped out of its body frame. Michael suddenly had a funny feeling about this and glanced at the pamphlet spread. The very same robot looked back at him from one of the faded photographs. Oh, is this the robot? The caption under the photo read, "Rescue robots dropped a year ago to help those remaining at Anzo. Due to the effects of anomaly, no longer obey the original algorithm. Avoid contact by any means. Deadly." Well, that's not good. "Sir, evacuation," the robot began again, but Michael was already running at full speed. Oh, okay. Wow. He saw additional rusty bodies appear seemingly out of nowhere. Some were coming down the withered tree trunks, while others were creeping out from under the layer of dried up leaves. The rusty clogged syringes stretched out towards Michael from everywhere, and this whole heap of junk was creaking, humming, and wheezing. Oh my gosh, repeating the same phrase over and over. They didn't accelerate but moved at a steady yet rather speedy pace. It was quick enough that Michael, who for a long time had been spending 5 days a week in an office chair, knew that sooner or later he would wear himself out. He was running and trying to figure out what he had done wrong to make the book drop him into this unfriendly world. I wonder if Jeremy worked it out. A thought ran through his mind, and the next moment another thought hit him. Could all of this be happening because I stopped reading about him? This thought forced the already worn out Michael to lose all the remaining color in his cheeks, and without stopping, he loudly yelled into the medallion, "Why? Just don't stop reading about me. Even if you think this is all some sort of joke, I'm not going to survive here without you. Do you hear me? Please." Not that it brought him any comfort, because he didn't know whether Y had actually heard his yells, or whether she had stopped reading a long time ago. No worries, Michael, I'm still reading. Y did hear him, but had no way of reacting. Okay, the music suddenly stopped. She saw that the crowd of machines behind Michael's back was getting bigger. The whole forest, as far as the eye could see, was filled with rusty body frames of a whole army of robots. Michael ran out into a clearing and came to a dead stop just before he almost fell. Right in front of here was a sheer drop, while the footpath turned left and ran down a slightly less steep slope. Dragging his feet, Michael began his descent, but in just a few short steps, he stumbled and rolled head over heels towards the bottom. He kept rolling until he came to a halt, smack in the middle of very thick fog. He felt his remaining strength slipping away. His whole body ached after the fall, but the hum of robots behind his back forced Michael to get up on all fours, and he began to crawl. It was unclear where, though, as there was no footpath under his feet, and he could barely see his own hands through the fog. Okay. At first, Michael tried to crawl in a way that would leave the hum of robots behind his back, but soon the sounds started coming from all sides. When a pair of tracks clanked right in front of his nose, Michael realized that he had completely lost his sense of direction. Panicking, he began moving chaotically, trying to maneuver between the robots, and losing his breath, yelled into the medallion. Why? If you're still reading, help! I'm begging you, think of something. I'm guessing I need to get rid of this fog. Maybe I can try blowing into it? Oh, now it works. I tried it like 3 times. Okay, now they look like clouds. That's cool. The medallion made a hissing sound, and a power burst of air escaped from it. The fog began to gradually rise up, quickly condensing and turning into something resembling storm clouds. Ooh. Very quickly it started to get dark, but Michael managed to find the footpath. See, now the page is dark again, so I guess the color of the page is what time of day, what the sky looks like, I guess. But Michael managed to find the footpath, and without waiting another moment for the robots to find their bearings, took off running. A couple seconds later, the sun completely disappeared behind the clouds, but something continued to light the footpath. When he saw the source of this light, Michael was stunned. Right in front of him stood a small one-story building, illuminated by a sign that read, "Waypow." It had huge glass windows, but old dirt and a tint coating made it impossible to see what was inside. The footpath led directly to the door of the building. For a few seconds, Michael stood there looking at the building, trying to understand how something like this could appear in the middle of nowhere. But a robot that rode out from around the corner forced him to move. He ran to the door, pushed it, and managed to get in and closed the latch before the robot rammed into the door with a thump. Breathing heavily, Michael caught sight of his reflection in the door, dirty all over, with tousled hair and broken eyeglasses on his nose. He had already forgotten about that he was barefoot, wearing nothing but boxers and a t-shirt. Despite the fear and fatigue, his own grotesque appearance brought a smile to Michael's face. He hadn't thought this way since he was a child. He hadn't looked this way since he was a child. This carefree moment was interrupted by cloud sounds coming from all around him. He turned around and only now managed to examine the dark room full of flickering screens. Wai was just beginning to realize the nature of this place when she heard Michael's amazed voice. Well, I'll be damned if this isn't an amusement arcade. He was surrounded by arcade machines with Pac-Man, Mario, and the rest of the games that he knew from his childhood. But what surprised him even more was the fact that the footpath continued among the arcade machines, running right on top of the carpeting. It stopped at a huge old arcade machine which stood at the other end of the room, and Michael went to see what was there. On top of the arcade was the image of the medallion and a sign that read teleportation. On the screen was a pixelated image of Michael himself. On both of his sides stood 2 figures whom he was holding by the hand. The figure to the left resembled a giant conch with eyes. To the right of Michael stood someone whom he didn't recognize, but when Wai squinted to take a closer look, she discovered that the figure was in fact painfully familiar. It was herself, pixelated just like Michael. Oh, that's cool. I'm inside the game too. And above this strange trio floated a seagull. Shocked, Michael looked at the arrangement, trying to understand what it meant. He pushed one of the buttons, and the screen lit up with a message. To continue, insert token. Under the screen, Michael saw a big slot with a sign, "Place token here." He fiddled with the medallion, which was the same size as the slot, and after some hesitation dropped it inside. The arcade swallowed the token, and a new message appeared on the screen. "Please pay for the token." Hey, what the hell? Michael hit the arcade with a fist. How am I supposed to pay for it? Is there someone there? He yelled, but received no answer. He started kicking the arcade, trying to get the medallion back, but there was no sign of it. He was distracted from this pursuit by a crackling sound from behind. Michael turned around and saw that on the outside, the building's windows were literally plastered with robots. They leaned heavily on the glass and were stuck, trying to force it. And in the middle of this swarm of insane machines stood the creepy man with completely black eyeballs staring intently at Michael. There was a deafening clap of thunder, and the rain started pouring down. Michael felt completely boxed in. He turned back and, trembling with fright, began to shake the arcade, begging it to return the medallion, the only familiar object in this inhospitable world. It was all in vain. The heartless heap of junk would only help him if he managed to pay for the token, and the only person who could pay for it was the reader. Yeah, I figured as much. I immediately understood what this is all about. Purchasing the token wouldn't just give Michael a chance to escape, would allow Y to obtain the full version of the book, and finished reading the remaining 4 chapters, and $9.99 was the token's price. Are you kidding me? Was the first thought that unintentionally crossed Y's mind. She certainly wasn't ready for such a twist, and even thought about joining Michael and shaking the arcade with all her strength to make it drop the price. Luckily, she could do just that. The medallion was inside, and simply shaking the book could make the whole arcade tremble. Okay, I'm gonna shake the book. The machine buzzed, and the price fell down to $5.99. Something, however, told Y that she should try and shake it one more time. Okay, let's shake it one more time. Something clicked again, reducing the price to $4.99. It couldn't fall any lower. I really like how they actually made the price drop down the page. That's pretty cool. This is the final price the arcade would give. Y once again saw Michael, who with bulging eyes was shaking the arcade with the last ounce of his strength. But the robots had almost broken the glass, and the black-eyed man was ready to storm inside. And then the picture became blurred. The arcade machine prevented the medallion from broadcasting the events, and Y couldn't see what would happen next. But one thing she saw quite clearly, this was just the beginning of Michael's story. If they managed to get out of this predicament alive, there will be new characters to meet and new adventures to experience in mysterious Onzo. The only thing that separated them from all this was a piece of metal worth $4.99. And that was chapter 2. Okay, guys, that was the end of chapter 2. Really good. And I'm super excited to see what chapter 3 has in store for us. So next time we're gonna play it, and I'll see you guys then. Thanks for watching. Bye.